What's up, guys? Welcome back to the LTL Podcast. I am here with Steve,
Hello.
as always, and I got a lot to talk about this week. Not so much necessarily the typical, like, why is this team bad? Although we might get into that, but just a lot of, like, news regarding discipline and stuff. Um,
Just general buffoonery in the NHL, essentially.
yeah. So to start, we'll start on a little bit of more of a lighthearted topic. The Predators and the Lightning unveiled their Stadium Series jerseys, and we're not going to get too in depth on this because, spoiler alert, we're going to put out a mini pod soon, just discussing like the general difficulties NHL teams have in making good jerseys for whatever reason. We're going to kind of like do a deep dive into like why can't they get it right, but if that gives you any indication, obviously my opinions are that they did not get it right this time. What do you think of both jerseys? We'll start with the Lightning because I think they're the least offensive of the two.
It doesn't look like somebody like vomited on a sweater. Yeah. Um, I mean, honestly, they're pretty clean. I mean, they're really just blue and white versions of like those old Canada, like the original Summit Series jerseys with like the maple leaf on them. It's kind of like a similar like piping and design. Um, it's kind of tame. I don't like the word mark. Surprise. The guys who complain about word mark jerseys don't like the word mark jersey. But I mean, I just feel like it would have been so much cooler to me if they could have like incorporated the logo into the lightning design, you know what I mean? Like maybe had done something more vertical and like V-shaped to have it come to like a point and then you could turn the whole chest piece into a giant logo like a lightning bolt and that could have been kind of cool. I mean, it would have been kind of like outlandish and like comic booky, but like, I mean, you're already going for like a lightning design on your body. Like, why not go outrageous, you know?
What I can say for the Lightning jerseys is I can give them points for two things. One is like the color scheme. That electric blue and white just is very clean. I like that a lot actually. And they're ambitious. I gotta say the putting the pattern at the bottom of the jersey. I mean, there's a reason why many NHL teams don't really do that so much anymore. I mean, the Islanders tried it with the Fishermen. The Lightning actually also had kind of a wave pattern at the bottom of their jersey at one point. Um,
The Hurricanes, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have like the flag, the hurricane flag on their jerseys on the bottom.
yeah, like there's a reason that for the most part NHL teams at the bottom of jerseys kind of just stick to your typical striping pattern. Um, but I will say it's ambitious. I think it's not terrible. The bottom of the jersey doesn't look bad. I think it would be look a little bit better if it was maybe a little bit more subdued. Like it almost comes up and touches the logo, and at that point, like if it's gonna touch the word mark, why don't not just integrate it into the word mark?
Yeah,
Um,
that's kind of what I was thinking too.
it kind of feels like a little awkward. Like either make it lower so it's very clearly supposed to just be the bottom of the jersey, or integrate it in some way. And obviously, the word mark. Like, can we? If your name is not the New York Rangers, stop using words as a logo. Words are not a logo, okay? This is not baseball. This is not football, okay? Words are not logos. It's boring. It's lame. Please, can we stop doing this? And it makes me so angry that this is only the second worst word mark jersey we've seen in the last month.
Hmm.
Like,
Well, I mean, would you count the Predators jersey as a word mark jersey?
actually, yeah. So it's the third worst.
Yeah,
Congrats.
it's the least offensive of the three word mark jerseys we've seen.
And surprise, surprise, all three of the word marks, the actual word mark itself, suck. And two of the jerseys pretty much suck too. But
Spoilers, but well, you know,
it's boring. You don't have
I'm
the
just hoping
heritage
that
that the Rangers do, and really, honestly, the Rangers only really get away with it because of the heritage. Like the blue and red is a obviously red, white, and blue is a really nice color scheme, but if the Rangers didn't have that heritage, like if they just came out with that jersey tomorrow, I don't know that I'd be the hugest fan of it, to be quite honest, because it wouldn't have that context. Obviously, in context, the Rangers jerseys are one of the better jerseys in the NHL, in my opinion. I really, really like them. But, like, please, you're not the New York Rangers. Stop doing this. It does not work. It really just doesn't. It's boring. It's lame. And if you, for all these people you have in your art department, for the hundreds of thousands of dollars you put into marketing and art research, if the word market is the best thing to come up with, then fire everybody, because I can come up with a better logo for my stupid fantasy team based on goddamn SpongeBob than you can based on an NHL franchise. Like I don't understand. Like stop
The only
doing the
thing
word thing, please.
the only thing I will say with them is that like the jerseys, while the jerseys themselves, like out of the context of like the whole uniform, are kind of boring. I'm hoping that like, when they get on the ice, they look better. That like maybe it's more of like a bold pattern on the socks or something. You know, like more of like a lightning design and things like that. That it might be more interesting. But
I mean,
as it stands now, it's just like, eh.
if the pants can if the pants continue that like color shape, like the shape itself, it might look pretty clean. Like if the lightning bolt extends all the way down to the pants, it might be cool. But if they're
Yeah.
just like plain blue or white pants, then it's gonna look really awkward, I think. But
I hope they're not white because I feel like that would be weird.
yeah, I mean we'll see, right? And in Nashville,
Oh boy.
how did this
Who made
get
this?
approved? How, first of all, not even how did this get approved? How did this get past the first layer of approval? Like whatever
What
art
art director let this
designer,
out?
like that's what I'm saying. Like whatever entry level art designer you had working on this, when he brings up this design, his manager should have been like, let's go back on this one. Let's go back to the drawing board. But like somehow he approved it, and then like marketing approved it, and then like ownership approved it, and it's like, how does this keep happening?
What if like as some kind of sick joke, one of like the artists just submitted it like without actually getting it passed up the ladder? Like they just threw it in with all the other designs. Like this one sucks. They'll pick one of the other ones, and they're like, we like this one a lot, and they're just like, all right, well now that's yeah, great. We all really like that one too. Yay.
I don't. This isn't like some local roller hockey team whose art budget is like $30 and like a corn dog. Like this is an NHL franchise who I'm assuming has, because they have to have made mock-ups and stuff of this. So I'm assuming that they have more than one graphic artist working for them, considering all the social media work, all the
Oh
logos they
yeah.
have for like the scoreboards and stuff like that. Like you have to have more than one guy sitting at a computer desk. So like your whole team thought this was the best design, and it's not like this snuck up on them. It's this they were supposed to play. I'm pretty sure they were supposed to play last year when
Do you think they were like, all right, that gives us more time to go back to the drawing board, and then they came up with this?
it's bad. If and again, the Smashville word logo
Bro,
is
why would you use your nickname Smashville? Like, I know that's your nickname and like that's the whole thing, but like nobody calls Nashville Smashville. Literally nobody, unless you're a Predators fan.
all you're doing is inviting some drunken frat boy to wear this jersey into his next fraternity party and be like, "Welcome to Smashville, baby." Like it's just like no, like just some like idiot in a triple XL Predators jersey who's never watched hockey before. Like that's who this is designed for. And then he just and the jersey itself doesn't even look that good. Like at least with the Tampa Bay Lightning, you can be like, oh yeah, like the colors are nice. Like the blue and white is actually really appealing to the eye. I I can't even say that the colors on this jersey look all that great.
Whenever Nashville tries to use their all like navy blue patterns, I hate it. I hate that like they're all dark blue. It's just too like it looks black on the ice because the lighting and the shadows and like it's just feels like a really boring color. It's just like really dark and uninteresting, you know?
It's just not good. Not to mention the fact that the jersey itself is boring because it's just a jersey. It's just a plain jersey with two stripes, with the giant word font Smashville on it. That's all it is.
With
There's
a
not
Dragon
like
Ball on it. Don't forget the guitar pick and the Dragon Ball.
yeah, like it's not like the Lightning jersey where you could be like, oh look, they tried something here on the bottom of the jersey, right? Like they tried something different. The arms are a little bit different. Like this is just like, hey, there's two stripes and we put some like Helvetica bold font in the front of it, and yeah, like I love how they do these PR shoots with like, oh, the captain approves of the jersey. Like, when are we gonna see the honest reaction where he just walks out and goes, "Holy shit, this"?
You want me to put this on?
That's what I want to see. Okay, I want to see them do one of these jersey reveals where the guys walk in and they go, "What the fuck is this?" Like,
He just goes, "What?" And that's it. Bro, it's the fucking like I would have loved to have seen the Dallas Stars walk into that locker room and see Tyler Sagan go, "You expect me to wear this with brown gloves? What?"
yeah, it's just funny how like that they showed them this beforehand. They were like, "Hey, just when you get in there, just act like
Pretend to like it.
you're excited." And the weird thing is, like in the video that they put out for it, like if I'm gonna send this to you, Steve. If you watch the first 10 seconds of this video, this is not the same jersey. This is not the same jersey that's in this video because the one that they showed these guys is like black.
Right.
So let me drop the link here for you, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Like when they do the pan over, it is when you look at that and then you look at the standalone shots they posted, there's a noticeable tone difference. So like did they just show these guys a completely different jersey?
I love how like pre-order this now. Oh wait, are you talking about the one in the background of this shot?
No, if
Yeah.
like click on the video, the first 10 seconds they do
Yeah.
like a close up of like it's the new jersey. It's not the same.
Yeah. Let's take a peek here. I didn't see that. I only saw the pictures they posted.
Yeah, like it does. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't.
That looks black, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it really does.
Like, are we being punked? Uh,
Yeah, I don't. I really. I don't. I'm not really sure, friend. Like, this has been a
so
weird year for Jersey so far.
we're gonna do a deeper dive and kind of explore maybe like some of the reasons why these things get put out in a mini pod. But yeah, so
Did the Winter Classic teams just put out their jerseys yet? Or did they do that last
uh,
year because they thought they were gonna do it?
we haven't really seen anything.
Fair
Like
enough. I
nobody
wasn't
posted
sure
anything. So
because it's what Minnesota and somebody else from the Central Division, I think. Colorado. I think it's Colorado at the Air Force Academy. But anyway,
so
hopefully those jerseys aren't ass.
yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Um, let's start with the Artemi Panarin incident since it happened chronologically first. Artemi Panarin was fined for throwing his glove into the bench of the Boston Bruins, allegedly. And again, we say allegedly, although it's more or less confirmed, but just for argument's sake, allegedly, what was said was Brad Marchand said something to the effect of like, nobody in Russia likes you, you know?
Yeah, essentially throwing his whole like thing back in his face from last year.
And the TLDR on that, for if you don't know, basically the TLDR is Artemi Panarin is one of many outspoken Russian hockey players against President Vladimir Putin. One of Putin's cronies and ex-head coach of the team that Panarin played for really oddly claimed that like not only did Panarin abuse a bunch of women, but like he did too. It's like a very weird sort of situation. He claimed that him and Panarin like physically abused women at a club, I think it was,
Or in some kind of hotel or something, yeah.
and then there was rumors that like there was going to be retribution via the government against Panarin's family, who currently still lives in Russia. So that was like a whole big thing. Panarin took some time off. No real word ever came out about if he maybe moved his family somewhere else. And I assume the reason we never heard anything is for safety protocols, obviously. So
Yeah.
it was messed up. The whole thing was really screwed up. And Brad Marchand, I guess, threw that in Panarin's face, and Panarin, understandably, was not thrilled, and that whole incident occurred. So, there was no supplemental discipline for Brad Marchand because, per the CBA, the NHLPA does not allow, or the NHL is not allowed to get microphone recordings or camera audio from near the benches or on the ice when it's a he said she said situation. They're just not allowed to have that information. They don't have access to that. So no supplemental
Really
discipline
bizarre.
for Brad Marchand, although he went and got himself suspended a couple days later for slew footing. So he fixed that, remedied that situation really fast. So
He was speed running suspension. He was trying to see which one he would get suspended for first.
give me your thoughts, because I have a lot of thoughts. I've been thinking about this a lot. So just give me what you think to start.
I just think it's shitty, honestly. Like, if what was said is true, which a lot of sources have indicated it to be, then like, what did you expect? Like, why would you bring something like that into the like onto the ice? Like, there's no reason to bring that up. Like, it's like there are things you can talk about on the ice or like talk shit about on the ice. You know what I mean? It's like a person's looks, his ability on the ice, his team, or just like him himself. You, the things you shouldn't talk about are like his family, his sexual identity, or imply anything of that nature. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like there are certain lines you don't, his ethnicity, like there are just lines you don't cross that it's just too personal. And it's like clearly Brad Marchand does not understand personal boundaries because he was licking people like 3 or 4 years ago. But it's just like it's shitty, and I guess it's like, breaking news. NHL scumbag is scumbag, surprising nobody. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
like I think at this point there's no questioning whether or not Brad Marchand is just a total and complete dirtbag. I honestly think even the most hardcore of Boston Bruins fans would recognize the fact that not only is he a dirty hockey player, okay, he's just a terrible, terrible human being, right? Like, again, you brought up him licking people, like some of the things he said and done to other hockey players. Like, he's just a bad person, right?
He just like clearly has no regard for his fellow players in almost any way. It's like, why? I don't know. It's just so
And
I hate that guy so much.
I'm all for chirping, but like you said, there's certain boundaries. I think, like, you have to understand that there are just certain things that are outside of the context of what's kind of okay, not only just on a hockey field or on a on ice, right? Not only just in a hockey context, but just like things in general. Like, you wouldn't rib your friends about these kinds of things. Like, even when you and your friends are having like a roast session, like, there's an understand and implied boundary that comes along with that. And obviously Brad Marchand doesn't understand that. Now, the one thing I will say is I wasn't entirely thrilled with Panarin's comments after the fact either, which kind of got buried under. They kind of buried the lead. Well, not buried the lead, but like it kind of got buried because then very quickly after that, the whole Brendan Lemieux incident happened. But he said something to the effect of, like, when they asked him about his fine, he said something to the effect of like, "Oh, well, good thing the old GM gave me that $11.5 million deal, right?" And I don't like that, just from the perspective of like it's almost like Artemi Panarin is like clowning the organization. Like, I know that's not what he's doing, but it kind of
Yeah.
comes off that way of him like, well, good thing I swindled this team out of an $11 million contract. So I mean, but obviously that's not to defend. That's not saying anything Brad Marchand did was right, but it just kind of
Yeah.
feels like this is a situation to me where everyone was just kind of being childish in one way or another. Like the glove throw, you know, I think it's a little silly, you know, look, I'm not asking Artemi Panarin to go out there and fight because he's not. He's not a fighter. Um, but there are mechanisms with which you can kind of settle this kind of thing, like just go out there on your next shift. And by that time, when the game's almost over, it's 5-2 already at the end of the game. Like, just, I don't know, give him a cross check or give him a slash. Just take your 2 minutes and then leave. Like, the glove throw is a little silly, but I get it. In the heat of the moment, like, you're going to do stupid things. But we shouldn't get into the business of throwing things across the benches. Like, that's,
Yeah, no.
you know, I think both players in this instance were acted childish in their own way. Marchand on the ice, and then later Artemi Panarin kind of almost in a certain context, if taken out of context, those comments could be seen as like kind of clowning his team, which I know he didn't mean to, but it's just a bad situation. But yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty ugly.
Marchand's just a horrible, horrible player, bad person. And then he went and got himself suspended for slew footing, which again is nothing new. I mean, the guy, he just sucks. I hate him. Like,
He's just a menace, honestly. Like,
and I do want to talk about the idea that people bring up with like, oh, like he's one of those players that like you love him if he's on your team. I want to talk about that after we kind of talk about the Lemieux situation, because that's kind of what came out after. Jonathan Quick went to bat for Ben Lemieux, but Ben Lemieux was suspended for 5 games for biting Brady Tkachuk. And he bit him twice, I believe, on the hand.
he did. He broke the skin.
And I want to pull up Brady Tkachuk's comments because it's one of the funniest things I've ever read in my life from a hockey player. Let's see if I can bring up what Brady Tkachuk said. Let's see.
Didn't he call him like a brickhead?
I'm going to paraphrase, but it's one of the most gutless things somebody could ever do. That guy, you can ask any of his teammates. Nobody ever wants to play with him. That guy's a bad guy, a bad teammate. He focuses on himself all the time. The guy's gutless. No other team wants him. Kids don't even do that. Babies don't even do that. The guy, this is the best line I've ever heard from a hockey player. I don't know what he was thinking. He's just a complete brickhead. He's got nothing up there. Bad guy, bad player. What a joke he is. And it's right. I mean, look, I thought this didn't need to be said, but you should not be biting people. Okay.
I didn't know that was something that we needed to clearly define for people.
Keep your mouth out of the game of hockey except for chirps, right? Brad Marchand had a problem with licking people. We had Alex Burrows biting people. We have Brendan Lemieux biting people. Stop doing this shit. Stop licking people. Stop biting people. This should be common knowledge. Obviously, nobody's going to defend anything that Brendan Lemieux did here. There is no defense. I don't care, if the guy's fingers accidentally get in your mouth area during a scuffle. It happens, I guess, but don't clamp down on them. Just, push his hand out of your mouth.
I just don't get, I just don't get what goes through your head where you're like, all right, I'm in a fist fight with this guy. It's going to the ground or grappling. And, you're not, in a fight for your life. It's not Batman fighting Killer Croc, getting his ass kicked and he has to bite him. It's bro, you're a guy of, pretty much similar height. And you're on top of the pile. When they went down, he's on top. So why he's biting him, I don't understand.
So, what do you think of 5 games for the suspension?
I mean, 5 games is the realistic number I was expecting, between the 5 to 7 game mark. But I mean, realistically, I would have thrown him out for 20, 25 games. You can't bite somebody twice and break the skin on their hand and expect to be playing in my league anymore. You know what I mean? And like I said, unless this guy was savagely attacking you with a hockey stick, and you were defending yourself, fighting for your life, some sort of fucking Slapshot-esque brawl, then there's no excuse. It's there are just things you don't do. You don't use your stick as a weapon. You don't bite dudes. You don't kick people, and you certainly don't fucking bite them in a fight. What is wrong with you? Like that shows just a clear lack of a startling lack of self-awareness, honestly, to not realize like, oh, I'm getting a little out of control here. Maybe I should calm down or, just settle down and not get this angry or like a mental like lapse of some kind. Like just some like it's almost like how we talk about Tom Wilson, how Tom Wilson just seems like all of a sudden to snap and just like lose his mind and like go after people for like seemingly no reason.
Yeah.
It's like Brendan Lemieux's like that, but instead of like skating around and kneeing guys and elbowing guys, I mean he does do that too. I mean the apple doesn't fall far from the tree when your dad's clawed Lemieux, but you know, at least I can say I'm not worried about Tom Wilson getting into a fight with someone and trying to bite their hands off. I'm more worried about him throwing an elbow, which, as awful as it sounds, is more acceptable. It's more in the realm of the sport. It's like, guys get elbowed. It's a dirty thing, but it's not as vicious as like biting somebody. Like, what are you, a zombie, bro? Are you a dog? Like, what is wrong with you?
So Jonathan Quick, they was asked, I suppose, about what happened, and he said, "I have my own opinion about what happened or what didn't happen last night." Which, by the way, there's no ifs ands or buts. He bit Brady Chuck. Like that's
You could see it in the video. You see him like, what the craziest part about it is, not to derail you though, is like, it's not like Brady Kachuk's hands came up and got in his face. You know what I mean? Like you see Brendan Lemieux like reach around with his head under the linesman's arms to get in there with him. So it's like, I don't know how you could think anything else is happening there. Because you see Brady Kachuk, as soon as he bites him, he pulls his hand free and then starts swinging. He starts throwing punches because he's like, bro, he's biting me. Like, what is he doing? So I don't know how Jonathan Quick can sit there and be like, well, what did or didn't happen?
yeah. It's like no, there is no what happened. There's video evidence. He said, "What I can tell you is the comments made about Pep. I guess that's his nickname, Pep, which is
Yeah.
gross. First of all, were garbage. We all support him, and I'd rather have him on my team over that kid any day of the week." Which, false. First of all, sorry, John the Quick, you're full of shit. Okay, nobody in the NHL would rather have Brendan Lemieux than Brady Tkachuk. Just let's get that straight. Okay, let's.
You're comparing the pedigree of a former second round pick, 31st overall, who's fallen quite heavily from grace to a guy who went in the top five and is living up to all those expectations and just got named captain of his team.
Yeah, so let's
Let's be realistic at least.
let's pump the brakes on that one, Johnny Quick. All right. Um, and I guess this brings me to my point of NHL players always, 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 without fail, going to bat for teammates. Okay. I think that this is something we need to get past. This does not need to be the case. If somebody does something garbage to one of your teammates, or they say something garbage to one of your teammates, by all means, if your teammate's in the right in this situation, by all means, defend your teammate, vocally, physically, whatever it is you can do.
Right.
But in a situation like this, or in a situation like what happened with Tom Wilson last year with Artemi Panarin, or in a situation like Brad Marchand, basically any given night, we need to stop acting like the minute the guy puts your jersey on that he's above fault. Because it's dangerous, it's stupid, and it doesn't make any sense. Okay? Jonathan Quick does not need to go to bat for Brendan Lemieux here. He really doesn't, because he shouldn't. He bit a man. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if you get asked, I'm not saying that we should start a culture where we start calling out teammates in the media. Like, I don't think that would be, first of all, that'd be horrible for the locker room, right?
But just like don't speak on it at all. Like
Right. Just,
there's
just,
nothing to be said.
just, I don't think we should be calling each other out, but if they ask you about it, just say something to the effect of, well, the league reviewed it and they handed down what they thought was appropriate, and that's all I'm going to say on the matter. Because at that point, you're giving a non-answer, right? You don't have to defend guys like this, and you shouldn't. At least I think so. What's your opinion on that kind of notion?
Like I agree with you in a lot of respects. I think, but like if he did want to go to bat for like Brendan Lemieux and say like no, he is a good teammate. Like if that was his prerogative and that's what he wanted to get across, that's fine. I get that because like sometimes you do have to stick up for your teammate in that regard. If like the media is throwing them around and especially if you're Jonathan Quick, two-time Stanley Cup champion, considered a leader on this team, it's kind of your job to go to bat for guys who might not get the chance to defend themselves in the media, especially like lesser guys with lesser media presences. But there's a better way to go about it than going out there and talking badly about Brady Tkachuk, because realistically, Brady Tkachuk did nothing wrong. Like, the fight happens. Like, nobody's in the right or wrong when that happens. The scuffle dusts up and it gets physical, like, whatever. That's hockey. But what happens after that, when he starts biting him, okay, now your guy's very clearly in the wrong. So there's no reason to go out there and take a shot at the guy who's getting bit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're attacking the victim and defending the attacker for seemingly no reason. Like, nobody asked you about this. Nobody was looking to see how the LA Kings thought about Brady Kachuk's comments. Like, no, nobody cared. You know what I mean? Like, Matthew Kachuk made comments about Brendan Lemieux too, but you didn't see Jonathan Quick going out there and talking shit to Matthew Kachuk, because guess what? He has to see him like 4 or 5 times this year. So it's almost like, yeah, you can talk all this shit when you only see this guy twice a year because you know he's gonna come back and light you up. You know what I mean? Like, the whole thing just seems stupid to me. It's like there's an old adage that a friend of mine gave me, which is like, if you're clowning a millionaire and you're broke, you're the joke, and that's kind of how this feels like here. You know what I mean? It's like you realize you're the joke, right? Like, you're the butt of this whole joke now, Jonathan, because everyone's gonna make fun of you for defending the guy who has no defense. Like, it wasn't like a questionable call, right? Like, it wasn't like a guy was skating in and he twisted wrong and he hit him and he boarded him and it was like a weird, like an accident where, like, okay, yeah, there could be some area for you to wade in and try to get, like, clear out that gray area. It's like, no, Brendan Lemieux bit him not once, twice, broke his skin. Now, mind you, that's fucked up normally, like during any other year, but given the fact that it's 2021 and we're still living in the midst of a global fucking pandemic, like, what? What is wrong with you? Like, it's so mind-boggling. Like, I just can't get over the fact that Brendan Lemieux felt the need to bite another grown man. Like,
Yeah.
like what? Unless, like I said, unless you're like in fear of your life, I think like there's no reason to bite somebody. And two, like, Jonathan Quick's also a clown for going out and saying anything at all, because guess what? The captain didn't even say anything. Anze Kopitar wasn't in front of the media talking about it. I'm pretty sure he said something to the effect of your answer. He's like, I really don't want to talk about it. The league handed down their suspension, and it is what it is. Like, I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
It's and it's not like, oh God, I don't know. Go ahead. I'm just gonna keep rambling.
Um, I did want to get your opinion on there's an old adage in hockey and in sports in general where they're the players that you hate them when they're on another team, you love them when they're on your team. I think that we need to stop applying that label to literally anybody that makes people mad, because quite honestly, most of those kinds of players you don't want on your team. I mean, look, I've never played professional ice hockey, but I can tell you, even at the lowest possible level of like beer league deck hockey, there are certain guys that I hated when I played against them, and I hated them even more when they were on my team. And part of the reason is because when it comes to guys like that, specifically guys like Brad Marchand or, um, you know, Evander Kane, for example, right? Guys like that make it harder for you to play hockey because you have to constantly answer for them, whether that's in front of the media or on the ice. Like, if you're the team tough guy and Brad Marchand goes out and does something stupid, you have to answer that because he's not going to. Brad
Yeah,
Marchand doesn't fight people. Like, or
I
if
think
you're like the captain, right? Like, how many times can you go out and defend a complete and total blockhead before you're just like, get him off my team? I'm tired of talking about him. Like, luckily for the Capitals, Ovechkin just kind of has built up this rapport with the media where like they really don't ask him about this kind of stuff because they know they're not going to get a straight answer. But like, if they had a more talkative captain, like somebody say in the vein of like a Ryan Callahan type captain who, when he was on the Rangers, he was always in front of the media, right? Like, imagine Ryan Callahan having to defend somebody like Tom Wilson. Like, I can't imagine that he would have done it more than 2 or 3 times before he would have been like, I am sick and tired of answering questions about this complete moron. Get him off my team.
You think Mark Messier would have dealt with this kind of shit? Mark Messier would be like, bro, I don't care what the organization thinks of him. He is too much of a problem. Get him away from me. You know? And it's like there are guys that like you do like that's not like the phrase gets applied too easily to everybody. We think that just makes us mad, like you said, but that is something to it. There are guys like Brady
Oh,
Tkachuk, for
yeah.
example, is a guy that like I hate playing against, but would love him if he was a Ranger.
I'll give you the
You know what I
perfect
mean?
example. Perfect example of a guy who's completely innocuous, doesn't really hurt anybody physically, doesn't really do anything that makes you want to like get at him all that much. Is like Leo Komarov. Like, he's annoying as hell and he's a complete pest, but like I can count on one hand the amount of time that guy has done something suspension worthy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a guy that you love when he's on your team because he's a veteran. He's
He
got
works
great
hard.
leadership. He works hard, and yeah, he pisses off the other team. But like, I don't see like you don't have to defend Leo Komarov to the
No,
media.
it's like Ryan Reeves too, to an extent, right? Like Ryan Reeves and the Rangers. Like, does he toe the line sometimes? Yeah, of course. But like most of the time, it's like he's not really bothering anybody. He's going out there and he's throwing hits and he's doing his thing. And like, yeah, he's annoying to play against because you know he's a nuclear deterrent. He could just beat up anybody he wants on the ice. But like most of the time, he's really not looking to do that. You know what I mean? So it's like whatever. But like Brad Marchand, I wouldn't want on my team because I'd be like even as a fan because I'd be so worried like oh my god how many penalties is this guy gonna cost us? You know what I mean? Like it's not like he's just a pest and draws penalties. He's a pest who takes penalties. So he's constantly hurting the team. But they just seem to keep because it's Boston. They just seem to keep enabling him, and I don't understand why. And the frustrating part is, specifically with Brad Marchand, is he clearly has the talent to be one of the best hockey players in the whole fucking league.
Yeah.
In the last, like all the full seasons previous to the last two truncated ones, he had broke the 100-point mark. Like, clearly you don't have to engage in this level of like bullshittery. Like you could just go out there and play hockey. I'm not saying don't be engaged, don't chirp guys, don't try to get under guys' skin, but there's no reason you're getting suspended for however many games you got suspended for slew footing people. Like there's no reason for that. Especially not if you're a superstar, because like you don't have to. You don't have to get back at guys by being an asshole and playing dirty. Because guess what? You can just go out there and put the puck in the net. That's your way of getting back at these guys.
I mean, to me, it's a lot of the same feelings I have about Tom Wilson. It's like Tom Wilson, talent wise, has all the talent to be a top 5 power forward in the National Hockey League, but like he's constantly doing these stupid things that are either taking him off the ice, which, by the way, I don't know if any of these guys realize it's pretty hard to score from the penalty box. Just say that. And second of all, it's taking him either off the ice for a penalty or it's putting him in the press box because he's been suspended like I think 6 or 7 times in his career already. Like, you don't have to do these things. You have talent. Why
And
do you
like
put yourself in these situations?
I'm tired of Bruins fans specifically, like back to the Marchand thing real quick. Like they always come to the defense of this guy. I don't get it. The Boston media, the Boston fans, his teammates, they will always go to bat for Brad Marchand no matter what he does. They were defending him licking guys. They were like, well, yeah, it's a little ridiculous, but you know, Brad is Brad. What are you gonna do? It's like, oh, if I was the captain of the team and I found that this guy was licking other grown men on the ice, I'd be like, bro, you got to cut that shit out. That does not fly. Like, that is not something we do in a professional sports league. It's not like we're playing beer league hockey at the rink and you're dicking around with your buddies. You're playing professionally. You have not just like, you're not just the standard for the sport. You're a role model. Like, whether you want to be or not, you have an obligation to present yourself in a professional and not necessarily like great light. I'm not saying you have to be a great person, but I'm just saying you don't have to be an asshole. You know what I mean? Like you have an obligation not to be a dick and go out and do stupid things like this because guess what? When you're one of the best players in the league like Brad Marchand, kids are watching and they're seeing this and they're like, "Oh, if he can do it, then I can do it." And it's like, "No." I know it's a slippery slope argument, but it's kind of like I feel like it's a valid point. Like He doesn't get punished for it. He gets away with it, and his teammates constantly come to his defense. So like,
I
I
don't, I'll say for what it's worth. I've been playing at the place that we play hockey at for 6 years, and we were started playing there when we were like 17, 18, and I've
yeah,
never seen anybody there lick somebody. I'll
I've
just say
never seen
that
somebody
much.
lick somebody. I've never seen someone bite somebody. I
Like,
mean, I did see someone get suplexed though on the rink, which was kind of wild. But
we've seen some dumb things, but at least nobody's ever bitten or licked anybody where we played. And like, if a bunch
that's
of like a bunch of beer league idiots, who like half of them are probably drunk for the whole game, can refrain from getting their mouths involved in their hockey games outside of throwing chirps at each other, I don't think it should be that hard for a guy like Brad Marchand to do
okay.
that.
Well, to be fair, there has been one biting incident at our rink that everybody knows about, but that's because the person who perpetrated it is a psycho, and everybody knows that. So I guess to your point is, yeah, we've had a pretty good track record with normal people not biting each other.
Yeah,
So like, and like you said, like everybody's drunk, bro. Like you go to those games, dudes are in the parking lot like 20 minutes to a half hour early, just pounding beers before the game, and they don't even bite each other. Like, I, bro, it's just so bizarre. It's so bizarre. Like,
yeah. I just think, obviously the incident's messed up. Ben Lemieux's in the wrong here, and I think that this can be kind of a teaching point for younger players in a sense of accountability. Not only do you need to hold the other team accountable, but honestly, more importantly, you should be holding teammates accountable. And we've seen this recently too with the Jonathan Tays thing, where he went to bat for his organization unnecessarily, right? Like,
yeah,
accountability needs to be taught to be a blanket, uh what's it called, a blanket trait. Okay,
yeah.
you should be holding everyone accountable equally. Your teammate, and or honestly, quite frankly, you should be holding your teammates more accountable than you hold your opponents, because you
Well,
don't really
because you
have
know
much.
them.
Right, like, you don't really have much of a say, about what your opponents do. But when your teammates do something that's not right, you don't need to defend them. You don't need to go out and lambaste them in the media. Like, I'm not expecting Anze Kopitar to come out and be like, Brendan Lemieux's a scumbag. Screw this guy, get him off my team. But by the same token, quite honestly, if I was Anze Kopitar, I would have a sit down chat with Brendan Lemieux and be like, listen, dude, don't do that. Cut that out. In no uncertain terms, that is not going to fly within my LA Kings organization.
Not while I'm, yeah, exactly. Not while I'm here. And I feel like any captain worth his weight would do that. Can you imagine Brendan, like, I know I keep bringing him up, but imagine Mark Messier having to deal with something like this? Mark Messier would have like hit him with a tombstone pile driver himself. You know what I mean? He would have been like, no, 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 son, not in my team.
I don't care who it was. It could have been Mike Richter in the middle of the 1994, miracle season run. And if Mike Richter was out and licked people more than once after Messier told him not to, Mike Richter would have been out on his all powerful ass out on 58th Street before you could even say bite. Like,
He would have like been, it would have been like a movie, like he's chomping down on the guy's hand, and like all you see is the close of his face, and then it zooms out, and he's just outside on 7th Avenue looking around, like, and like Mark's just throwing his bags down the steps of the garden. Like, get your shit out of here, Mike. I don't need you anymore. I mean, he
and
did it with Ty Domi.
yeah, I mean, I kind of think that you can really tell a lot about what organizations hold each other accountable by the kind of things that go on. Like, I mean, not to beat the dead horse, but again, if we go back to the Tom Wilson incidents, it kind of lends itself to my theory that Ovechkin's probably a pretty bad captain in terms of leadership. Like, he really is not very good at keeping his teammates in check. But then you go,
Ovi,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Ovi is just one of those guys who wears the captaincy by virtue of being their best player. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
McDavid. Like, I feel like weird tangent, but I guess because we're talking about leadership, I really think that's a trend that has to stop. I think we have to stop handing the captaincy out to just the best player on the team because they're not always the best leaders on the team.
no,
You know?
more often than not, they're really not. Like, quite honestly, guys that are super high skilled like that, generally speaking, you really don't want to give them the captaincy because you don't want to have them to worry about it. Like,
And it's also like how is somebody that's brain or like talent is like on such another level than his teammates going to be expected to be able to relate to them and explain to them what he's looking for out of them when it comes so naturally to him most of the time. You know what I mean? Like how is Connor McDavid going to go into the locker room and try to fire his boys up by telling them how to like get more shots and like talking like when it's just like Connor, our whole game plan is get the puck to you and you just skate. You know what I mean? So it's like I just think I think it's a bad idea. I mean, sometimes it works out right. Like Sidney Crosby, captain, best player, also one of the best leaders of all time. Mark Messier, one of the best players of all time, captain of like every team he's ever been on, one of the greatest captains, if not the greatest captain of all time. But it doesn't go hand in hand all the time, you know. Like you said, Ovechkin, best player on his team, kind of a poor captain when you look at it like his character and how he holds up compared to the other like everyone else. Like
I mean, I'll
he
flat
doesn't
out
really
say he's
set
a
a great
horrible,
example.
horrible captain. Honestly, I don't think he's a really great leader.
I,
Period.
I mean,
Like,
even if you want to like exclude the things he said off the ice, the example he sets on the ice has been kind of terrible. I mean, when the team was bad, he didn't try that much, and we all thought he was washed up, and then, and then he all of a sudden is reinvigorated, and every time he throws a hit, he's like skating like 800 feet to hit people and leaving his feet. Like, it's not like I feel like also when you give the captaincy to your best player, you put so much pressure on them that they feel like they have to live up to it. That like that's why I feel like Ovechkin is the way he is. Like he feels like he has to be that guy, so that's why he's out there throwing those huge hits and doing all that stuff. When like reality is that's not making you a better leader. It's just making you more of an asshole and less of a good example, less of a good role model. You know, like if I'm a teammate, I'm looking at Ovi. It's like, wow, he's really out there banging bodies. I'm like, bro, he's out there like trying to maim them. Like that's I'm not into that. Like no thanks. You know?
I think there's also something to be said for like mitigating pressure on your best player because when your best player is your captain, not only is there the added pressure of being the captain, but it kind of there's already the pressure of being your best player, right? So like if your best player who's also your captain goes to a slump, it's just compounding the pressure because it's like, well, okay, he's not putting up the points anymore, and then we're also expecting him to have all this leadership responsibility. Like when it came to Ryan Callahan, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cared if Ryan Callahan put up more than 40 points because it's really not what his job was. So,
Nope.
like, the amount of pressure that was on him, obviously, there's a huge amount of pressure being the captain of the New York Rangers, but the amount of pressure was on him was mitigated because there wasn't that added pressure of, well, I'm checking his stats every day. But if a guy like Ovechkin comes out next season and puts up like 15 goals, everyone's going to be like, first of all, what the hell happened to Ovi? And second of all, that there's all this pressure to he's got to score, he's got to score, he's got to score. But now he also has to lead the team. And, like, you know me, I'm a huge lead by example guy for the most part. And sometimes you just need to let your best player just worry about being your best player. They don't have to lead by example if they don't have that added pressure. A lot of
Yeah.
times what teams will do is they'll give their best player the captaincy because they feel like that player has a lot of prestige within the league that the refs are going to give them a little bit more leeway to talk and argue things as opposed to giving it to some nobody. But to a certain extent, just by virtue of being the captain, you already get that prestige. You know what I'm saying? Like the refs are
Yeah.
already gonna listen to you. So
And if you
like,
really are so hell bent on giving your star player that prestige, do it. I mean, do it used to be the traditional way, which is just to put an A on their jersey. I mean, if you look at historically in hockey, like the best players in the league were never the captain of their team, really. I mean, Gordie Howe wasn't the captain of the Detroit Red Wings for a while. Like,
I
he was the
mean,
best player on the team, but
Nate McKinnon's not the captain of the Avalanche for that reason.
exactly.
Like, sure, Gabe Landeskog is expected to put up points, but at the end of the day, even if he doesn't, it's not like he's not throwing
Doing
hits and
something.
being physical. Like
Yeah.
Jamie Benn's a perfect example. Like Jamie Benn is not the 40 goal scorer he used to be, but he's still a great captain because he's out there banging bodies, throwing hits, he's getting involved in the play. Like he's the kind of guy you want to make a captain because there's a low amount of pressure on him. Nobody expects him to score 40 goals anymore. He just has to do his job and lead by example. But if you throw like a C on Nathan McKinnon's jersey, or something to that effect. It's like, well, okay, Nate, go out, put up 90 points, but also you have to deal with all this other stuff.
You have to hold your teammate, the teammates, the referees, and the other team accountable on the ice, and
Yeah.
you're the only person who can do that. So, good luck.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like we as a hockey culture need to start holding our teammates more accountable. Again, not publicly. I'm not saying we should go to the media and be like, all right, listen, here's who's on my shit list today. Like Jim didn't take part in practice. F that guy. Like, we shouldn't be doing that. But if you're asked about Brendan Lemieux biting incident, you don't have to defend him. You just be like, listen, I saw it, you saw it, the NHL saw it, and they handed down what they thought was appropriate, and we're going to welcome him back on the ice when he gets back. That's all you got to say.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know. It just really bothers me that I love how tight knit hockey teams are, but at the same time, it has its drawbacks. So it's just one of those things. Do you have anything else you want to talk about in this episode?
I don't think so. There hasn't really been any crazy news or anything really trending in the league right now.
Obviously, so yes, after our whole episode last week, the Islanders were postponed and they are playing tonight. This episode is being recorded December 2nd. It's a little bit too little, too late, unfortunately, because they already lost the first 4 games at homestand, which I have to think that probably played a really big part in why the NHL didn't want to postpone, because they're like, it's opening week for the new arena, but thanks for postponing us after we lost 8 points. Thanks, I guess.
Yeah.
So they are back. They're playing the San Jose Sharks tonight. So most of their players, not most of them, a good chunk of the players came off the protocol list. There's still a few guys left on there, and then obviously the Pollock and Brock Nelson injury. So Islanders are still kind of in tough at the moment. I'm really not expecting much from them for the next couple games, and then we'll see how the season progresses. So who knows? Maybe by the end of the season we'll be talking about draft lottery odds for them. But
Shane Wright, here we come.
Again, so keep an eye out for that mini pod regarding like just a deep dive into the art departments of NHL teams and why they can't seem to just get it right. That will be coming soon, and then next week, I think next week we might do the quarter mark podcast. Oh, and by the way, Buffalo has the biggest foot in their mouth right now.
Is Jack Eichel skating?
Because Jack Eichel's already skating after his surgery. So, yeah. All the teams in the NHL outside of the Islanders and the Bruins at this point and the Avalanche have hit their 20 games. So next week we'll do our quarter mark podcast. We'll take a look at where teams are, who's been most exciting, disappointing, that sort of situation. That'll be next week. I want to thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys again next time.